Ger, we're at your yard at the launch of the Foran EBF series, and I have to say I thought over the last number of years the series has really reinvigorated the game.
Yeah, it's a huge addition. Any series that brings over 650,000 into the equation is to be applauded, and this has grown and grown every year since its introduction. You get one chance to win a maiden, and when you win a Foran's EBF maiden you get a minimum of 20 grand, and then you have the opportunity then to run for a first prize of 72,000 at the end of the year. So it's very much appreciated by the trainers, and when you have a horse that qualifies for one of the Foran EBF races, you make sure you're running it to qualify for the final.
And I've spoken to a number of trainers over the last 2 years, and I think it's changed their buying policy as well.
Yeah, it's a little more incentive. I mean, I'd go out for every one of my yearlings that I'd buy and hope that I'd pay 72 grand or less, but invariably they'll cost a tad more. But whatever I do get that qualifies for the 72 grand cut-off point will be aimed at it'll be unfortunate if I win a maiden that doesn't qualify him for the final.
And just talk me through the process of your buying policy when you go to buy yearlings. I spoke to Kerry just before I spoke to you, and I think there's roughly about 1,000 yearlings that would be on your list, and that would be narrowed down. But just talk me through that whole process.
We start in Doncaster in August. The sales I do is Doncaster, the Irish sales, which is Fairyhouse, Goffs, and then we go over to Book 1 and Book 2. So that's the sales we cover. I suppose there's about 1,000 yearlings we'd go through to narrow them down to the few that we buy. It's getting more difficult. There's huge competition out there. They're not getting any cheaper. Invariably, I like a horse. The first thing that attracts me to a horse is how it looks, its head, and then it has to have a nice walk, and the conformation has to be good, and the team always make that decision for us. And it's just a knock-off process, and then you go in and you value it to as near as you can to the current climate, and you go in and try and buy it as cheap as you possibly can. And
when you've gone and you've bought your yearlings over the last 2 years, has the series been in the back of your mind, the Foran EBF series, when you've been purchasing those yearlings?
Absolutely, yeah. Since its introduction, it has, yeah. You're in a bidding war and you look at a certain horse and you go, that would be one for the series, and hope that you buy it within the, as cheap as possible. And once it hits beyond the 70 that you're out of the game. So.
And has that attracted new owners into the yard?
Winners attract owners, and winning races like this is just a bonus. And it's nice to be able to turn around when a guy puts out a good outlay for a horse to as I said, you win a maiden once, so to get 20 grand winner's prize money for winning a maiden is huge. And I don't like the theory that people say you write a cheque for a horse and you just tear it up. I mean, for me there has to be some comeback to justify staying in the game, and as I said, this is a huge step forward.
And Gaelic thoroughbreds, did they get involved last year, and they were quite lucky with Kestrel Prince?
Yeah, he won two qualifiers. He paid his way, and they got a great bit of fun out of him. And he was a horse that we definitely aimed at the Foran's races because he qualified and we knew he had ability, So 72 grand is a huge prize in the current climate, whether it be over here or in England, a huge prize and a welcome addition no matter how big or small the owner is.
And talk me through the process then when the yearlings are purchased. Where do they go? Who breaks them? At what stage will they arrive at the yard here?
This year was different. They all come home from the sales and they go to a farm, Ronnie Boland's farm in Kilcock, and we try and once we make sure that they've no vices, they go out to the paddocks. They all get a minimum of a month in the paddocks, and then they'll start going down. We've a triangle here with Ronnie Boland and then Ger Lyons, and the yearlings are just taken along at a very slow pace. I don't ask any questions. Even now I've probably changed our policy. We let the horses come, some will have open knees, some are backwards, some are more forward than others, but I let the cream come to the top and I let them find their own way. If they're good, they're good, and hopefully more are good than are not.
And is it a case that they would be naturally precocious and naturally talented, and that those horses would just sort themselves out anyway?
If they're here in the main yard, they're ready to do fast work and they're ready to take the hard training, as you would say. But this year we're letting them find their own. They're lovely. You've just seen them, a lovely bunch of 2-year-olds, and those that are precocious will step forward and those are not will go to the back of the class.
In 2018, last year, Ger, you had 16 runners, 5 winners, you had 7 individual owners. The auction price of the 2-year-olds that you ran ranged from 2.5 to 58 grand, but you won a staggering amount of prize money.
Yeah, but that's the bonus about it. I mean, out of the Forans, I think we accumulated something like 80,000 plus 2 plus 10s, which brings it up to 100,000, which is not to be sniffed at. And it's a huge addition to your end of the season tally on the trainers board, as well as paying bills for people, you know.
And for your average owner to be aiming a 2-year-old that can possibly win a first prize of 24 grand, that essentially would cover your year.
Yeah, it would. But listen, everything's a bonus, Dave. You know, I mean, you're an owner. You won the race last year. Thanks for giving it to me to train.
Well, I sent it to a proper trainer.
You did. And he's since retired. So the moral of the story, if you have Dave Keena in your yard, you're going to retire.
I couldn't listen to you. And you have some nice horses that'll qualify for this series as well.
Hopefully, yeah. I bought a lovely little Tamayus in Fairy House. He's a baby psychedelic funk. He looks like him, and he qualifies. And as I said, it's early doors. I haven't pressed any buttons here yet because I didn't want to be disappointed too early in the season. But he'll be one that we'll aim definitely at a Forans race.